Welcome to another movie plot. It begins in the dungeons beneath Jerusalem during the Third Crusade. The nobleman Robin of Locksley's been taken prisoner after failing in the English king's effort to convert the population to Christianity. His captors remove the hands of inmates, requiring Locksley to volunteer in place of his childhood friend Peter. When the sword comes down, Robin pulls a guard's hand under its path and the two begin making their escape. A Moorish prisoner says that he knows a way out of the city, so Robin frees him for directions. The three take a sewer passage leading them into the streets of Jerusalem when Peter's shot in the back with an arrow and dies, having Robin swear to him that he'll protect his sister when he gets back to England. Meanwhile, in England at Robin's home, his father Lord Locksley's informed by a local peasant that his lands are under attack. Despite the warnings of his servant Duncan that a bad omen looms tonight, Locksley rides out of his castle gates alone to confront a large number of cultists. The sheriff of Nottingham's come to recruit Locksley into his ranks to overthrow the king. But when the Lord refuses, his pride gets the best of him and he charges into the no-win situation. 4 months later, and Robin finally returns to his home soil with the assumption that his father still owns the land. He's become close friends with Azeem, who accompanies Robin in his debt for saving his life, and since there's no sun in England, the foreigner requires the locals' knowledge of the area to direct him east for his daily prayers. Just then a group of the sheriff's men chase a young peasant boy with their dogs up a nearby tree. Robin confronts them with sarcasm while the sheriff's cousin Guy says that the boy's wanted for poaching deer. Claiming that it's his father's land and giving the boy the right, Locksley shoots a soldier with a crossbow when he attacks and quickly defeats the whole group. He warns Guy to stay off his land and to tell the sheriff, when Azeem walks over having just finished praying to Mecca and saying that he'll repay his life debt whenever he feels like it. The boy descends and proudly boasts about killing hundreds of deer before running away to turn up later. Guy returns to his cousin, who's ruled over the land by oppressing the people in the absence of Robin. He informs him of the prodigal son's return and how he dispatched 4 of his men, when after admiring his new statue the sheriff's hailed to the bowels of Nottingham Castle to be given aid by Mortianna. She's a phony witch who does pretend magic and has come to convince the sheriff to follow her command as his parents' dying wish, when in reality she just eavesdrops on the sheriff's conversations to seem more knowledgeable and guides him in whatever direction she sees fit. Meanwhile, Robin returns to Locksley Castle to find his home in ruins and his father dead. His father's loyal friend Duncan still remains, though hasn't been able to cut Locksley down due to having his eyes removed. In a legal takeover, the sheriff also brought false claims that Robin's father was worshipping the devil, therefore forfeiting all of his lands to the king. After burying his father and vowing to avenge him, the trio travel to Peter's sister's home to give her the bad news of her brother's death. Only Robin's allowed to enter and Duncan's left to blame the Muslims for Robin even leaving England in the first place, unaware that he's speaking with one in Azeem. It's been years since Robin saw Peter's sister and she seemingly has one of her guards capture him, but Robin disarms his attacker to discover that it's Peter's sister Marian and that the years have actually been kind to her. He informs her of her brother's bravery in Jerusalem and gives the mourning sister Peter's ring. While trying to convince Lady Marian that he's no longer the spoilt rich kid that she remembers from before the war, Robin's alerted by Azeem to Guy and the sheriff's men swiftly approaching. The Englishman's also amazed by Azeem's spyglass, since they weren't really invented until centuries later. Now hunted by the wrongful ruler of the land, the 3 wanted men pretend they were there to steal the noblewoman's horses and escape the guards into the nearby Sherwood Forest, a place the locals refuse to enter due to the horror stories of ghosts that haunt it. Once they reach a river crossing, Robin is ambushed by the outlaw William Scarlett, who alongside his group of bandits live in the forest to hide from Nottingham's oppressive rule. They've developed the stories of ghosts themselves under the command of Little John, who wants Lord Locksley's pendant as payment for crossing and challenges Robin to a duel of staffs. After a quick beating, which the much larger fighter has probably given a few times, Robin's able to knock John into the river when we learn that he ironically can't swim. In the leader's mind, Robin saves his life when telling him that the water's only a few feet deep, so he thanks his savior and invites the trio back to their campsite. While sitting around sharing a bottle of ale, Robin's told that the young outlaw Wulf is John's son and that they're separated from their families simply for owing the sheriff taxes. Robin attempts to convince them to fight back, but they're all too afraid of the sheriff, and Scarlett especially holds a seemingly unwarranted hatred towards the newcomer. At Nottingham Castle, the sheriff's attending mass when Robin sneaks inside the cathedral and says hello to Marian, before speaking with the bishop, who's an old friend of his father's. When the bishop tells Robin that Lord Locksley admitted to him that he worshipped the devil, Robin knows his lying and attempts to leave but runs into the sheriff. He slashes his father's killer's face and flees the castle out through the roof and on a stranger's horseback, leaving the wounded sheriff angry at all his incompetent guards. Robin gets back to the forest with a sack of food stolen from the castle, which he hands out to the hungry people, and hears from Little John that the sheriff will hunt them for what he's done. Guy's given the order to have his men sack the homes of the outlaws, and they force the families into Sherwood with Robin to blame. Scarlett attempts to rally the people against him to claim the reward on Robin's head, but when he attempts to put a knife in his back, Robin puts an arrow through his hand. Robin then gives a speech using Azeem's words that a person defending their home's worth 10 attacking, and motivates them to create weapons and begin training in preparation for a war against the sheriff. They rob all of the local wealthy families and get the bounty raised on Locksley's head several times, in the sheriff's hopes that the poor will turn against him, but they remain loyal since they receive all the wealth. The sheriff speaks with Mortianna, who tells him to hire warlords from around England and begin building an army to overthrow the king. He sends gold and mead to the king's enemies, but the shipment led by Guy's ambushed. 2 merry men attract the larger group away from the convoy, while the rest of the guards along with a friar named Tuck are hit from both sides. Only for Guy to return and find the payment along with all of his men's bodies missing, giving more credence to the ghost stories of Sherwood. When Guy returns to his cousin with news of his constant failure, he's killed by the sheriff, who discovers that someone's been doodling on his statue. The friar wakes from being knocked unconscious and is asked by Robin if his men can have the barrels of mead, but he kicks the stranger in the face and attempts one last escape, failing horrendously and getting recaptured once again. He's then taught humility when Robin makes him haul the cart back to their hideout and convinces him to join them as just another one of God's mysterious paths. 2 of Robin's more moronic companions stop Marian and her handmaiden in Sherwood in an attempt to rob them, but are easily subdued by the more capable duo and made to take them to Robin. He shows Marian to the small community and around the well-constructed treetops containing countless seized treasures. That night the group celebrate when they're suddenly alerted to John's wife having complications during childbirth. Tuck has a hatred for Azeem and his strange religion and argues against him trying to assist in the birth, but the educated man's able to turn the baby and John's given a healthy new boy for the collection. The friar again sees his mistake and the 2 holy men strike up a newfound friendship. In the morning Marian's sent home on the Misty River to disguise her exit, and the 2 prepare for what's to come. The sheriff's told by his witch that he's to marry a woman of noble blood, so he sends his men to kidnap Marian from her home. She previously tried send a letter to France to aid them, but she left it in the hands of the traitorous bishop, who had the lady's handmaiden bludgeoned for it. Had enough of the merry men's antics, the sheriff informs his cult that he's hired Celtic warriors to flush them out, and they follow an injured Duncan from Marian's homestead to the Sherwood hideout. A large army of both Celt and Englishmen run through the unprepared village, slaughtering the resistance. When the poorly armed peasants begin to fight back and overpower the larger force, they retreat back to the sheriff, who orders a second assault of fire arrows and catapults. The entire compound burns to the ground, with Robin presumed dead when a burning rope gives out, sending him plummeting into a hut. Survivors are brought back to the Nottingham castle to force Marian to marry the sheriff, and he convinces young Scarlett to become a traitor and find out if Robin survived the attack. A handful of the merry men return to the camp after the assault and find Robin still alive. The next morning, while burying the dead, Scarlett returns and is immediately set upon by John, who's enraged over his missing son. He stops when he sees Will's been tortured by the sheriff and hears from him about the forced marriage to Marian, and that those who were captured are to be executed at the ceremony anyway. He doesn't intend to betray them and reveals he's Robin's half-brother and Lord Locksley's bastard child, having grown up poor with his mother and hating Robin after his mother told him. The night before the wedding, the sheriff's playing around in his gold when getting a draft from his witch's peephole and realizes he's being deceived. He confronts her and has her admit to her phony visions of the future, but she says that a lie or not, it's the very reason that he rules the kingdom and is about to get married. Mortianna's true intentions for the sheriff to have a child with Marian, as she wants a grandchild of royal blood, as the witch reveals that she's the sheriff's biological mother. The next morning Robin plots an assault on Nottingham Castle and they begin to find ways inside. Friar Tuck along with Azeem disguised as a leper, sneak inside barrels of gunpowder and spread them around the courtyard. John with the help of his wife Fanny sneaks the group's weapons inside, while Robin, pretending to be a crippled beggar, uses manure to ward off guards and walks straight through the front gate. The others all enter various ways and take up positions around the walls, when the prisoners are brought out and prepared on a stage for the execution. On his way out, Wulf spots who he thinks is a traitor in Will, and draws the attention of the sheriff, getting the rebel executed along with the rest. Without another noose, he's placed on one of the nearby explosive barrels for a beheading, making it impossible for Azeem to blow the barrel intended to free them without killing him. In addition, Wulf's chair is kicked out early, and Robin misses his shot at the rope, forcing him to get closer and reveal himself in order to save John's son. Azeem then begins blowing up other barrels around the castle, causing chaos and a battle to commence. The hangman kicks the remaining stools out and goes to behead Scarlett, but is shot by Robin just in time. John then tackles the stage over to free the remaining prisoners, and Azeem gives an inspiring speech, finally convincing the rest of the peasants to revolt. They storm the castle with Locksley and Azeem launching themselves over the wall with a catapult to gain entry. They find their way to the sheriff's chambers where the bishop's marrying the two in a private ceremony while the sheriff's trying to consummate it on the spot. Unable to gain entry while even using the sheriff's statue as a battering ram, Robin instead enters the room via the window, belaying himself inside. The two rivals begin a sword fight while outside the witch attacks Azeem but runs herself straight onto his spear. During the duel, Friar Tuck discovers the bishop attempting to flee with treasure and throws him out of a window for the townspeople to pick clean. The sheriff's steel shatters Robin's cheaply made sword, but when he's about to kill him, Locksley runs a dagger into his heart. With her son now dead, Mortianna returns charging at Robin, but Azeem finally breaks down the door and throws his sword through the witch's chest, fulfilling his life debt to Robin in the process. The land's liberated from oppression and higher taxes, and Robin and Marian get married by Friar Tuck in Sherwood surrounded by their friends. Their wedding's briefly interrupted by the arrival of King Richard, who agrees to bless the marriage if he's allowed to give his cousin Marian away. He thanks Robin for protecting his throne, as the outlaw goes on to live as Lord Locksley with his lady Marian. And the movie ends.